Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about giving directions, and part of giving directions is asking for directions, because before somebody can give directions, another person needs to ask. Now, we do need to talk about what directions means, and so let's do that. Directions means how to do something step by step. Step by step. Now, today we're going to be talking about directions about how to go somewhere. How to get or go somewhere from A to B. But it doesn't have to be about that. Directions could be about how to cook something. It could be about how to build something. How to build something. It just means step by step, or one thing by one thing. How do you do something? How do you begin, and what comes next, and next, and next, and then how do you finish that? That's what directions means. So don't be confused with directions and direction. Direction is related to where you're going. That way is a direction, if you point your finger, or toward the park is a direction. Toward the park, that's a direction. Or north, that's a direction. Or southwest, that's a direction as well. All of these that is a direction to go. These are directions, not in this way directions, but these are individually a direction, a direction, a direction, a direction, one by one. And so when we count them, we can say directions, but it has a different meaning than this one, which means step by step. Okay, so don't be confused when I say these are different directions and this is giving directions. It is a different thing. It's a different meaning. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of questions we can use to ask somebody how to get somewhere. We're going to be talking about going places. Basically, how to get from A to B. That's what we're going to be talking about today. That kind of directions. So when you see a stranger on the street, a stranger is somebody you don't know, the best way to begin talking to them, if you need help, if you're lost, if you don't know where you are, you can say, "Excuse me." Excuse me. And this is the most common and best and most polite way to begin this kind of situation. You are lost, you need to know how to get somewhere, and so you say first, "Excuse me." Now, we can look at the questions. Do you think you could tell me how I could get to the park from here? And this one is very polite, because we say, "Do you think you could?" Very, very polite phrases. Very, very polite. How I could. These ways are, or these phrases help the question to be a little bit indirect and gentle. If we say, "Tell me how to get to the park." Tell me. This is a little bit direct. It could come across as rude if you say it that way. Tell me, right? So this way is very polite. From here, and tell me how to get to here, step by step, step by step. So that's one way. There are other ways, and most of the ways that we ask are pretty simple, some more direct than others. Let's look at them. Hi, I'm looking for the library. Could you help me? This one is implying what you want. Imply means you say it, but you don't say it. You say it by suggesting what you want. If you say, I'm looking for the library, could you help me? Well, what does help me mean? Does that mean give me directions? Does that mean help me get a glass of water? What does help me mean? Well, because of the situation, because you said, I'm looking for the library, the person you ask can assume or guess what you're talking about. So they will know you're saying, could you give me directions to the library? And you could say that directly. Could you give me directions to the library? And that is basically the same. The difference is this one is suggesting or implying, this one is more direct. But it's basically the same meaning, because the person who hears, could you help me, will know that you mean give me directions because of the situation and because of what you said before. Excuse me, how do I get to the park? Notice I didn't say from here, but again, that is suggested, or they can assume that. How do I get to the park? So a simple question. Or, do you know how I can get to the park? Which is basically the same thing, but it's asked in a different form. If you ask this, do you know how I can get to the park? Someone might say, yes, right? You could say yes to this, but nobody will say that probably, because they can guess that you want directions. They won't say, yes, I do, and then say nothing more. That would be very strange. So both of these are okay. These are both common ways to ask for directions. Very common, all right? We could say, as we said before, I'm looking for the park. Could you tell me how to get there? That's also very okay. Could you tell me how to get there? Directions. How? How is directions. Now, what if it's urgent? Like you need the police station. You need to go to the police station. Maybe some emergency, or you're in a hurry, maybe. What about this situation? Well, where is the nearest police station? Now, in this situation, you might not get directions. People will say maybe the street where the police station is, or something like that. You might not get directions, but probably people will give you directions. This one is more direct, right? Where is the nearest police station? It sounds, as I said before, a little bit rude. But if it's an emergency, if you're in a big hurry, if it's urgent, then maybe that's okay, right? If you have time and you want to be polite, okay, say, could you please tell me how to get to the blah, blah, blah. But here we can say just directly, where is that? Because I need to go now. Or which way is the nearest police station? Now again, people could just say, oh, it's that way. It's that way. That is possible because that is what you asked, but people will probably be able to guess or assume that you want directions. Or maybe if they say it's that way, then you can say, oh, well, how do I get there? How do I get there? That can be your next question. And so if you don't get what you want by asking this in an urgent or emergency situation, you can always ask another question, right? Which way is the nearest police station? It's that way. Okay, how do I get there? So anyway, you can always get what you want. It just depends on how good your questions are, really. Okay, so now let's change and talk about some different important words that we can use to describe different things when you're giving directions. Now, it's important to be able to talk about different things when you're giving directions, different nouns for directions, and so I think it's important that we know those before we practice this. All right, let's talk about them one by one. A corner and an intersection. These are not quite the same thing, but one makes the other. An intersection is when two roads meet. Two roads meet at a cross shape. Like this. So here's an intersection. Here is an intersection. Okay? We could say it like this. This is pike. I know it's hard to read there. P-I-K-E. And this is pine. And this is elk. These are the names of the street I've given them. We can say the intersection of pike and elk. The intersection of pike and elk. So here we have pike and here we have elk. So this is the intersection of pike and elk. When we say intersection, we're talking about the roads. We're talking about these two roads or these two streets. Now, if we want to say corner, then we're actually talking about this part. This part here, this part here, this part, this part. These are the corners. Corner, 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 corner. Four corners, one intersection. One intersection, four corners. Got it? One intersection, four corners. So if you want to use corner, you have to be careful and say which one you're talking about. Okay? Now, how about this over here? This, if we turn it around this way, looks like a letter of the alphabet, and that letter is Y. So we call this a Y road. And it simply is called that because of the shape that it is. It looks like a Y. We call it a Y road. So that's really easy, right? Looks like a Y. We call it a Y road. What about this one? Have one road here and the one big road here. If you have a road that looks like this, we call it, I think you can guess, a T road. A T road. Now, you could also say because the road ends here, this road, Pine, ends here, if you're just talking about this road ending, you would say it is a dead end. A dead end road. That means the road ends. It's a dead end here, and it's a dead end here. It's also a T road because there is another road that goes this way. But when you say T road, you're talking about this whole thing. So Y road, you're talking about this whole thing, right? These roads meeting here, and you're talking about the whole thing here, okay? So T road and Y road because of the shape dead end, because one road ends. If the road ends, it can be called a dead end. Now this one kind of looks like a dead end, right? But in fact, it's not quite a dead end because you can keep going around. So if you drive this way, you can go around this thing and then come back this way. So it's not really a dead end, but it doesn't continue. So we don't really call this one a dead end. We might call this a roundabout. A roundabout or a cul-de-sac. And that is when you have a circle at the end of a road. Maybe there are some houses here, around here, but the circle around here that the cars can drive around and go back the other way. Now, when cars can go two ways, cars can go this way and cars can go this way, then we have a two-way road. A two-way road. Cars can go this way and this way, but let's look at this road. We have an arrow that goes this way, so cars can only go this way, and cars on this road can only go this way. So we call this a one-way road. If cars can only go in one direction, notice I say direction, not directions, they can only go in one direction, we call it a one-way road. So we have a two-way road, this way, and the one-way road, this way or this way, not both. Not this way and this way or, okay? So, two-way road and a one-way road. Now this is a kind of two-way road because maybe these cars go this way and these cars go this way and this way. But because it's bigger, maybe we call it a highway. Some people would call this a highway. A highway is a road that's a little bit bigger than a smaller street like this. If it's very, very big, in America anyway, we call it an interstate. That means it goes from one state to the next, to the next, to the next state because it's very, very big and very long. It's called an interstate. Sometimes we call this a freeway if it's very big. Highway is a general word. Each of these things, so we have two of these going this way, this way, this way, right? So what can we call each of these? This is one way, but we have two of them. Well, these are each called lanes. Two lanes. So if you're in this lane, you're in the right lane. And if you're in this one, you're in the left lane. You're going the same way, you're going the same direction, but you have a right and a left lane. Now, maybe this highway, if we're going to call it a highway, is called Highway 4. If this is Highway 4, what tells us it's Highway 4 is this square beside the road. This is called a road sign. Oops. This is called a road sign. And it is a sign beside the road that tells you a lot of information. What highway you're on, what streets maybe come from the highway or go onto the highway, what areas are near the highway, what places to eat are near the highway. So there are lots of different signs, but we call them road signs. There are signs to tell you how fast you have to go, or you can't go more than that. That would be called a speed limit sign. A speed limit sign tells you how fast you can go. You can't go faster than maybe, I don't know, 70 miles per hour or whatever. So there are lots of different signs beside of the road. Now, also when you're giving directions, you may have some things that are not just like street names. Maybe something that's easy to see, like here. Maybe this is a very big building that's pink. Let's say this building is pink. And it's very easy to see that. If something is very obvious and easy to see, and it's something that can help you give very clear directions, we call this a landmark. A landmark. And we're going to practice using a landmark in the next video to give directions. So sometimes you use street names to give directions to somebody, but sometimes you have something that can help people really understand what you're talking about, and that would be a landmark. Okay, so let's say the big pink building on the corner would be a landmark, and that's how you would say it. Okay, so we're going to continue talking about directions in the next video. In this video, I just wanted to give some words and ways to ask for directions. In the next video, we're going to practice actually giving directions. Okay, so I will see you in the next video.